Hereford and Herefordshire represent the cider to Heineken. What I think Heineken brings to Hereford is to be part of a bigger network, bigger community. On the laboratory side, there we mill the apples and we press them so that we get the juice. And here in Hereford, fermentation of the cider takes place, so where the actual cider is created. And here we fill it in bottles, cans, kegs. We have the warehousing here, and from here we ship it to all our customers and consumers in England and around the globe.
Nearly 100 years ago, my father and his brother decided to start making cider as a career. My grandmother said to my Uncle Percy, "You should always make something that people eat or drink, because that never goes out of fashion." This is the orchard where it all began. My grandfather was an expert on apples, and especially on Herefordshire apples, and he looked after his orchards very well. They started with a stone cider mill on a local farm. Cider was made then basically the same as it is today, by grinding up the apples to a pulp and spreading the pulp onto cloths, which is then pressed. The old-fashioned way of making cider on the farm was that you simply relied on what turned up, and the fermentation could be either successful or it could be a disaster. The process today is almost identical. What has changed is that we now have proper scientific control of the fermentation.
Bulmer's growth to be the largest of the English to the southwest cider makers was due to the fact that they'd always put a lot of money and effort into understanding the science of what was going on with the product. From the early 1900s, they had set up their own laboratories to investigate cider making. It happened that Bulmer's gained a better understanding of what was going on in cider making because they investigated it systematically, and they were able to build on that. And the other thing they were able to build on was increasing the stability of their products, so that once you'd bottled them up or what have you, they weren't going to start fermenting again in the bottle and cause problems for the consumer. Bulmers were a step or two ahead of quite a lot of other people, and that opened up all sorts of markets to them. Through the interwar years, between the First and Second World Wars, they were exporting to all sorts of places because they knew they were able to package and ship by rail and indeed by sea stable products. One of the other things they could do was to sell cider in bulk.
If it's strength you're after, aim a cut above normal. Go for the proven power that Strongbow delivers, and suddenly you've found real strength. Bulmer's Strongbow. Strong as your thirst.
Cider drinking was becoming really popular, and the company realised that it was short of apples and it needed to do something about it. So they decided that if cider was going to go on increasing in popularity, they would need to do something about growing apples locally. I was promoted to a position where I joined the side of the business that was trying to encourage growers locally to plant orchards under contract for the company.
By 1970, end of 72, 73, Bulmers must have had 2,500 acres of their own orchards. They came up with a brilliant scheme. They called it their incentive scheme, which was to get farmers to plant orchards for them on long-term contract. So I went around the farmers, and Bulmers decided that they would pay for everything. The trees, planting, everything, and the farmers would pay back 50% of the resultant upper crop. So each year, 50% stable. But in the end, it was 10% they took off, and it was a brilliant scheme because it got the idea of planting up and running. It was a very exciting time because you couldn't go out there with a spade planting trees. It had to be done by machine, it had to be marked out by machine. And we used to, up to that time, Bulmers used to employ something like 200 pickers. And usually they were young mums who'd take their kids to school and then come picking apples, but it was too expensive.
Orchards became more intensively planted and machinery was developed and adapted to fit those new orchard plantings and new varieties brought in, and that's what really added to the success of everything.
Bulmer spent a lot of money on research. They had a research station or a research farm at the field farm at Hampton Bishop, where all the different combinations of root stocks, planting distances, you name it, was there. It was very, very exciting to work for Bulmers, and they were the leaders by far, and they led the industry.
Our history stems from Herefordshire with H.P. Bulmer starting his cider business here in 1887, and we've been at the core of the community ever since. And for us, that history and that heritage and the knowledge and understanding that we've built up over all of those years here makes us feel part of the community, and it's really important to us because lots of our colleagues are from the local area, and many have worked for us for generations. Some have parents who've worked here, so it's really, really important that we maintain those links.
I've been here 21 years and seen a lot of change. When it was Bulmer's, it was more of a family-run business, which is a really nice, enjoyable place to work. We were then taken over by Scottish and Newcastle, and that was really run as probably an asset-based and brand-led company. And now Heineken's taken over the company now. We've kind of gone back to working for a company that have some real values. So from respect, quality and people, they really value the workforce and the plant rather than just an asset-based company.
Cider making has changed a bit since 1945, but the basics are still the same. Since then we've invested a huge amount of time getting to know our own orchards, so we're really, really good at growing apples now. We've also changed the process a little bit, so we now evaporate the juice that we get so that we can make cider all year round.
I think Hereford and Heineken make a really, really good partnership. Heineken have come in with some great investment for the site, which really future-proofs it for Herefordshire. And also with their scale, we're now starting to launch cider around the globe. I think what Hereford can give to Heineken is the cider expertise. So our role now as the global home of cider is to really support Heineken around the globe, launching the products and support our colleagues so they can make really great cider as well. And we're here to help them innovate and really get them set on the way in cider making.
Within our portfolio, we obviously have Strongbow, which is the world's favourite cider. We have Bulmer's Scrumpy Jack. We also have Simmons Founders Reserve, which is my personal favourite. Old Moot and Blind Pig ciders as well.
The big investment we did in the recent years will allow us to fill cider in glass bottles, something we couldn't do in Hereford until recently. And it's a serious investment to continue improving the quality of this of the ciders we make here and the capabilities on site to grow the volume that we can produce here.
Once we've finished all our building and all our new facilities in place, we'll have the capacity to be able to make 6.5 million hectolitres of cider a year, which is 650 million litres every year.
Cider means a lot for Heineken. It's a global product. We sell it everywhere around the world where we have Heineken sales going on. And so in that sense, bringing it all back here to Hereford, I think being part of Heineken is a fantastic chance we have to not only deliver great ciders to Hereford, to Herefordshire, to UK, but also to the rest of the world.